And when is it?
This is a value question, right?
Yeah.
Like there is truth, of course there is truth, and as a scientist, you are going for the truth, right? That's your top value.
Yeah.
But which truth?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Like which truth? Because there are so many truths out there,
right,
that we could investigate.
Some certain codes, whatever, and somehow get the cane across to the Tsar's army at night. And so the Tsar, the Russian army knew where Napoleon was going next. So they say Napoleon figured something's going wrong. Why do the Russians always know where I'm coming next? He figured there's got to be a spy. Where's the spy? One time he bursts in to the general's tents where they're standing around with all the maps laid out and deciding what to do. He bursts in, he looks around, and he sees one person. Doesn't look French, looks Russian. He walks right over to Moshe Meisels. He stares him in the face and he puts his hand on his heart like that. And he says, "You are a spy." Moshe Meisels stands there calmly and says, "No, Your Honor, I am an interpreter." Napoleon feels his heart is not rushing. He's perfectly calm. He must be that he's an interpreter. He can't believe that anybody could stay calm under this. So he left him alone. So after the war was over, and eventually, even though they got all the way to Moscow, they lost in the end. And Moshe Meisels told this story to the other Hasidim. They said, "Moshe, how did you do that? How did you do that?" Anybody would rush over to put your hand there. Your heart would
Napoleon, all the more so.
How did you control your heart? He says, "What are you talking about? The Aleph base, the first thing I learned from the Alter Rebbe was that the mind rules over the heart. And that's the nature of man. That's what he did."
We would express in our day this by saying, follow your heart, which is probably the worst advice anyone can give you. Your heart is deceitful. It lies to you quite regularly. Your emotions are not trustworthy. Your emotions and your desires happen to you like the weather, and you are not responsible for them. But you mustn't follow them or worship them. You mustn't take them as the information that gives you life and identity, because they're very unstable and not trustworthy.
But the through line, because when you're in a creative moment and we're pulling from our stirrings, like we're pulling, like the relevance realization machinery is just like plugging away and pulling this stuff in, and the aesthetic experience, the creative muse moment is the through line. You're literally living it. You don't quite know what it is because it's not there. Like it's like, but you know that there's an organic truth, right? That you're approaching. I freaking love that moment. Like when you're sitting there and you go, I don't know what the hell this is, but I know it's there. And I know that when I get there, there's going to be a click. It's going to be what's in my brain and what's in the world are going to come together, and there's going to be a harmonic moment. It's going to go, and I'll know that the poem's done. I'll know the shape of this thing, and all of it was playing with that through line all the way down.
And one evening, I was reading a book, and there was a woman that we were friends in the room, and I looked up from the book, and the whole universe changed focus in a moment. And I believed that the universe was personal and not nothing. So I had amassed a lot of information about the biblical worldview, and then suddenly in a moment it gelled.
And I finally talked to my spiritual father about it, and he said, if you're going to journey to the heart of God, you have to have your heart in your hand. You have to own your heart. You have to own your heart. And as long as you are letting other people dictate to you how you should be, even as a monk, you don't own your heart. They own it. And I said, well, what are you telling me? He said, be yourself. No, not that. Are you sure you mean that? If God is going to redeem your heart, He has to own it because you've given it to Him. If you're going to journey to the heart of God, you have to have your heart in your hand.